I always believed that if you work hard, people would notice. That was what my dad taught me when I was younger. But the older I got, the more I learned that some people don't work hard. They just wait for the right moment to take what you work for. That's exactly what Leo did to me. I had been in the company for 3 years. I wasn't the loudest or the boldest, but I did my job well. My boss, Ms. Carter, trusted me with the most difficult reports. I was in charge of a project that took almost 5 months to complete. Late nights, skipped weekends, and more coffee than anyone should drink. I was sure this project would finally earn me the promotion I had been quietly hoping for. But everything began to feel strange the week before the promotion announcement. People kept giving me odd smiles. Some whispered when I passed by. I didn't understand why until I walked into the conference room and saw Leo standing at the front like he owned the place. He had a huge smile, and on the big screen behind him was my report. Not the team's report. My report. My work. My effort. My ideas. And he was presenting it like he had created every piece of it. I felt my stomach tighten. Something inside me cracked, but I forced my face to stay calm. I needed to hear everything before I reacted. This was only the beginning. I sat down slowly, trying not to show how confused I was. My hands trembled under the table, hidden from everyone's eyes. Leo spoke with confidence, like he had practiced every line. He even copied the exact introduction I usually used in meetings. When he clicked the first slide, I recognized my charts, my color layout, even my mistakes, the ones I had fixed in later versions. He didn't even bother changing those. People around the room nodded as he talked, impressed by numbers I'd spent months organizing. I kept staring at him, wondering how he even got access. Then I remembered. I had shared my files with him weeks earlier when he asked for a little help. I didn't think much of it at the time. I believed he was struggling, and I didn't want him to fall behind. He used that chance to steal everything. When he finished, the room burst into applause. I sat frozen as Ms. Carter stood up and said, "Everyone, let's congratulate Leo for leading such an excellent project." Something inside me wanted to shout, to stand up, to expose him instantly. But I didn't. Instead, I forced myself to breathe. I remembered something my uncle once said: if someone steals from you, don't rush. Watch how they behave. That will tell you how to defeat them. Leo's behavior told me everything. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't guilty. He was absolutely sure he had one. That was when I made my decision. I would let him enjoy this moment, just for now. The next day, the whole office acted like Leo was some kind of hero. People congratulated him in the hallway. Even those who barely noticed him before now treated him like he was important. He liked the attention. He smiled too much, laughed too loudly, and walked with a confidence he had never shown before. I kept my head down and worked. No one looked at me, and honestly, I was glad. I needed time to think, time to plan. Acting fast would only make things worse. I needed something solid. I needed proof. My chance came during lunch. I overheard Leo bragging to someone from accounting. He said, "Promotion is basically mine." Ms. Carter said she was impressed. Silas should have worked harder if he wanted it. I almost laughed. I had never worked harder on anything in my life. I walked away before he saw me, but my mind was already forming a plan. If he wanted to pretend, then I would give him enough space to make the biggest mistake of his life. Thieves always slip when they think no one is watching. Later that afternoon, Ms. Carter called me into her office. I kept my face neutral, even though my heart raced. "Silas, I know you helped Leo on that project," she said. "Good teamwork." I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled politely. "Of course," I replied. When I left her office, one thing became clear. I needed a perfect moment, one that would expose everything. And that moment would come soon. I went home that night, feeling heavier than I had felt in months. My apartment was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your thoughts echo too loudly. I dropped my bag on the couch and sat down slowly. I kept replaying the moment Leo presented my work. The look in his eyes wasn't just confidence. It was arrogance. He truly believed he deserved everything he stole. I opened my laptop and pulled up my project folder. Every draft, every file, every message, everything was still there. I had a habit of keeping backups. I wasn't even thinking about protection at the time. I just liked saving everything. Now, I realized how lucky that habit was. But proof alone wasn't enough. I needed a moment that no one could ignore. A moment where the truth would hit hard in front of everyone, the same way he had embarrassed me. As I stared at the screen, an idea formed. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, slow, and sharp, like a blade being pulled from a drawer. The company's quarterly presentation was coming in 2 weeks. A huge event. Investors would attend. Executives from other branches would join. And the best part? Whoever was up for a promotion was expected to showcase their leadership. Leo believed it was him. Perfect. I leaned back and let out a long breath. I wasn't after revenge. I just wanted the truth to speak for itself. But sometimes the truth needs help. And I was ready to give it that help. The next 2 weeks were almost painful to watch. Leo spent more time talking than working. He strutted around the office like he already had the promotion pinned to his shirt. People fed his ego without even realizing it. Some even said, "Silas, you should learn from Leo. He knows how to lead." I nodded and smiled, even though their words cut deeper each time. But every day, I prepared quietly. I collected emails, drafts, timestamps, and messages that showed exactly who created the project. I prepared a presentation of my own, not flashy, but solid, clear, and impossible to question. Meanwhile, Leo didn't prepare anything new. He planned to reuse my work for the quarterly event. I knew because I watched him open my old files on his computer when he thought no one was looking. The night before the event, I stayed late at the office. The cleaning staff passed by a few times, and I could feel their eyes on me. But I didn't stop. I built my presentation slide by slide. Every detail mattered. Every line needed to be right. Then, right before I left, something unexpected happened. Leo walked in. He froze when he saw me. "You're here late," he said. "So are you," I replied. He smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "Big day tomorrow. Hope you're not planning anything strange." I met his eyes calmly. "Don't worry, Leo. Tomorrow will be interesting." He didn't know how true that was. I woke up early the next morning. For a few seconds, I forgot what day it was. But when I remembered, my heart beat faster. This was the day Leo had been waiting for, the day he thought would crown him as the star of the entire team. I got dressed slowly, choosing a clean shirt and fixing my tie carefully. If I looked calm on the outside, maybe I would stay calm on the inside, too. When I reached the office, the whole place buzzed with excitement. People rushed around with papers and laptops. The conference hall was being set up with microphones, screens, and rows of chairs. I walked inside to check the seating. A big screen stood at the front, waiting for the presentation. Leo was already there, talking loudly with 2 managers. He saw me and gave a small smirk. I ignored him and checked my laptop again. Everything was ready. "Silas, can you help me move something?" Ms. Carter asked. I nodded and followed her. As we walked, she said, "Leo has been very confident. I hope the team remembers we work together, not alone." Her words gave me hope. Maybe she wasn't completely fooled. When the event started, people filled the seats until the room felt warm and crowded. My palms were sweaty. My legs felt stiff. I wasn't scared of speaking. I was scared of failing. But I reminded myself, this wasn't revenge. This was truth. And truth was on my side. The first presenter finished quickly, followed by 2 others. They all did well. But the room's energy kept shifting toward Leo. Everyone expected him to shine. When Ms. Carter finally said, "Next, we have Leo presenting the main project," he stood up like he had been waiting his whole life for this moment. He adjusted his suit jacket and walked to the front with a proud smile. He plugged in his USB drive, opened the file, and began talking. Everything went smoothly at first. He repeated the same lines he used during the smaller team meeting. People nodded. Some whispered to each other. But then, something happened that made my chest tighten. He began showing the unfinished slides. My slides. Slides I had made before finishing the project. They still had notes on them. Notes like "fix this chart" and "check numbers again." He didn't notice. He kept talking, pretending everything was perfect, but people in the front row leaned forward, confused. Even Ms. Carter frowned. Leo clicked to the next slide, and another unfinished page appeared. I could hear whispers around the room. He tried to rush through it, but his voice cracked. Sweat formed on his forehead. For the first time, he looked unsure. As you can see, these numbers," He stopped. He looked at the screen, then at the crowd, then back at the screen. His spell had broken. People weren't impressed anymore. They were questioning everything. And that was when Ms. Carter turned to me. "Silas," she said quietly, "did you work on this?" I inhaled slowly. My moment was coming. I didn't answer right away. I wanted the room to settle, for the confusion to grow just enough. Leo looked at me with wide eyes, silently begging me not to speak. But it was too late for that. "Yes," I said calmly. "Those are my slides. Early drafts." The room fell silent. Even the background hum of the air conditioner seemed to pause. Leo dropped the pointer he was holding. Miss Carter's face tightened. "Leo," she said carefully, "why are there unfinished slides in your presentation?" Leo opened his mouth, but no words came out. It's just Silas helped a little, so. A little. I repeated. My voice was steady. I wasn't shaking anymore. I created every part of this project. All 5 months of it. Gasps echoed across the room. I stepped forward. "If you check the timestamps on the files, you'll see when I made the drafts. And when Leo accessed them. I have all the records." Leo's face turned pale. He looked like a building about to collapse. Ms. Carter stood up. "Let's pause for a moment." But I wasn't finished. "Not yet." "Leo," I said, keeping my eyes on him, "did you think you could steal my work and no one would ever find out?" He swallowed hard. His hand shook. "Silas, please." The room wasn't on his side anymore. Everyone could see what had happened. And finally, he knew the truth had cornered him. Ms. Carter asked everyone to stay seated. She turned to me and said, "Silas, would you like to present the correct version of the project?" The question hit me like a shock. I had prepared for this moment, but hearing her say it out loud felt unreal. A wave of fear and excitement rushed through me. But I nodded. "Yes, I'm ready." Leo stood frozen as I walked past him. He looked smaller now, like someone had taken all the air out of him. I plugged in my laptop. When my version appeared on the screen, clean, organized, complete, the entire room reacted. A hush fell over everyone. "This is the real project," I said. "The one I've been working on for months." I spoke clearly and slowly. Every slide moved smoothly. Every number made sense. People nodded, took notes, leaned forward. Even the investors watched me with interest. Halfway through, I saw Ms. Carter smiling proudly. When I finished, the room burst into applause. Not polite applause like before, but loud, sharp clapping that made my chest feel warm. For the first time in a long time, people were clapping for me. Leo kept his head down. His face was red, and his hands were clenched together. No one looked at him with admiration anymore. Only pity and disappointment. Ms. Carter stood up again. "Thank you, Silas," she said. "Everyone here can clearly see who put in the real work." She turned toward Leo. "Leo, please come to my office after this." The room understood exactly what that meant. When the event ended, people rushed toward me. Some shook my hand. Some apologized for not believing in me earlier. Others said they had suspected something seemed off, but they weren't sure. I accepted their words quietly. I wasn't angry anymore. I just felt relieved. As I packed my laptop, I noticed Leo standing in the back of the room. Alone. His shoulders were slumped, and he looked like someone who had aged 5 years in one morning. I wondered what he was thinking. Maybe he was trying to understand how everything fell apart so quickly. Maybe he finally realized that lies don't stay hidden forever. But I didn't approach him. I didn't need to. When I stepped into the hallway, Ms. Carter called my name. "Silas, walk with me," she said. We moved toward her office. I felt nervous, even though I knew I had done nothing wrong. She closed the door behind us. "Silas, I'm proud of you," she said with a gentle smile. "Not just because of the project, but because you stayed calm. You handled everything with maturity." "Thank you," I said softly. She continued, "I want you to know something. The promotion decision isn't about who speaks the loudest. It's about who works the hardest and leads with integrity." My heart beat faster. "Silas," she said, "expect an email soon." When I walked out her office, I felt lighter, taller, stronger, even though she hadn't said the words directly. I already knew what the email would say. I returned to my desk, but sitting still felt impossible. My hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the leftover rush of everything that had just happened. I checked my email, even though I knew it was too early. Nothing yet. Across the office, Leo walked slowly toward Ms. Carter's door. He didn't look at anyone. People moved out of his way without speaking. Some whispered, but most stayed quiet. He disappeared inside her office, and the door closed behind him. I stared at my screen and tried to focus on work, but my mind kept drifting back to the presentation, the applause, and the way the truth came out. I wondered what Miss Carter was saying to him right now. Was she angry? Disappointed? Giving him a second chance? About 20 minutes later, the door opened. Leo stepped out. His face was pale, and he didn't look up. He walked straight back to his desk, grabbed his backpack, and left the office without a word. No one stopped him. No one asked anything. Watching him leave felt strange. I didn't feel joy or revenge or victory. I felt calm, maybe even sad, not for what he did, but for what he could have been if he hadn't chosen the wrong path. A few minutes later, my computer pinged. A new email. I clicked it slowly, and there it was. Congratulations, Silas. You have been selected for the senior position. I covered my mouth with my hand. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just a promotion. It was proof. The rest of the day passed in a soft blur. People stopped by my desk to congratulate me. Someone brought cupcakes. Another person clapped my back so hard I almost dropped my pen. I thanked them all, but my mind still felt half floating, like it hadn't caught up to the moment yet. When the final bell rang for the day, the office slowly emptied. I stayed behind to organize my things, try to soak in the quiet. As I packed my bag, Ms. Carter walked over and leaned on my cubicle wall. Big day, she said gently. I nodded. It was unexpected. No, she said firmly. It was earned. I smiled. Thank you for trusting me. You didn't just show skill today, she said. You showed character. That matters more than anything. Her words warmed my chest. For years, I had worked quietly in the background, never asking for much, never trying to stand out too much. But today showed me something. Being quiet didn't mean being invisible. Enjoy your evening, she added before heading out. I left the building a few minutes later. The air outside felt fresh, like the world had reset. As I walked to my car, I saw Leo's empty parking spot. The space looked oddly large. Sitting in my car, I let out a long breath. Everything had changed. Not just my job, but my future. My confidence. My sense of self. I turned on the engine and whispered to myself, you did it. And for the first time in a long time, I truly believed it. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter. I made breakfast, put on music, and even ironed my shirt with more care than usual. When I arrived at the office, a small congratulations banner hung above my desk. Someone had drawn a tiny cartoon version of me, giving a thumbs up. I laughed quietly. A few coworkers gathered around to greet me. We knew it was you all along, some said, though I wasn't sure if that was entirely true. Still, it felt nice. Around noon, HR sent me a message asking me to visit their office. When I arrived, they handed me new paperwork for my updated role. The salary increase made my breath catch. I thanked them and signed everything slowly, making sure my handwriting stayed steady. On my way back, I passed Leo's empty desk. His chair was pushed in perfectly. His plant was gone. His desk looked like no one had ever sat there at all. A strange feeling washed over me, something between relief and sadness. I didn't want his downfall, only fairness. Still, part of me wondered what he was doing right now, if he regretted what he had done. When I returned to my desk, I found an envelope sitting on my keyboard. No name on the front. I opened it. Inside was a short note. Silas, I'm sorry. Leo. I read it twice. Then I folded it quietly and placed it in my drawer. Some things didn't need a reply. After lunch, Ms. Carter called me into a small meeting room. When I walked in, she smiled and gestured for me to sit. I have something important to discuss, she said. My stomach tightened. Is everything okay? Better than okay, she said. As part of your new role, I want you to lead a new team. We'll be starting a major project next month, and I believe you're the right person to guide it. I blinked at her. A team leader? Me? I had barely gotten used to the idea of being promoted. I know it sounds sudden, she continued, but you've already shown leadership. You stayed patient. You trusted your work. And when the truth came out, you handled it with grace. Her words made my throat feel tight. No one had ever described me like that before. I'll do my best, I said. I know you will, she replied. When I left the meeting room, the hallway felt brighter. Leading a project team wasn't just a new challenge. It was a chance to build something real, something strong, something honest. Later that afternoon, I received the first email about the new project. My name was listed at the top as team lead. Seeing those words made my chest warm with pride. As I read through the details, I thought about how different things could have been if I had stayed quiet, if I had let Leo take everything. But I didn't. I stood up, and now everything was changing for good. The next few days were full of planning. Meetings, emails, drafts, timelines, I didn't mind. This time, people actually listened when I spoke. They asked for my opinion. They waited for my direction. It felt strange at first, but also amazing. One afternoon, while reviewing numbers, I realized something. I wasn't scared anymore. Not of being overlooked. Not of someone stealing my work. Not of speaking up. Something inside me had finally shifted. That evening, as I packed my bag, one of my team members, Laura, approached me. Silas, she said softly, can I ask something? Sure. How did you stay so calm through everything? If someone stole my work, I don't think I could hold myself together. I smiled slightly. I wasn't calm the whole time. I was angry, confused, hurt. But I also knew that if I reacted too fast, people wouldn't see the truth. They'd only see me as emotional or jealous. She nodded slowly. So you waited. I waited, I said, not to get revenge, just for the truth to show itself. Laura smiled. Well, you earned all of this. After she left, I sat back for a moment. She was right. Everything I had now wasn't luck. It wasn't pity. It was earned. I locked my computer, turned off the light at my desk, and walked out of the office feeling steady and sure. For the first time, I felt like my story was finally going in the right direction. The next morning, I walked into the office with a calm feeling in my chest. It felt like the air around me had finally cleared. I wasn't rushing. I wasn't stressed. I wasn't scared of what Leo might try next. I had reached a point where I wasn't reacting anymore. I was planning. When I reached my desk, Leo was already there, leaning back in his chair with his feet slightly sticking out into the walkway. He tapped his fingers on the desk like he wanted me to notice him. I didn't. Hey, Silas, he said in a fake friendly tone. Big day. You ready for the presentation? I glanced at him. More ready than you think. His smile twitched. That was the first crack in his confidence, and I stored it inside my mind like a treasure. When the meeting started, Mr. Harding went over the schedule. The final review was in 3 days. That meant I had 72 hours to make the biggest move of my career, and the move that would expose everything Leo had done. I spent the rest of the day quietly organizing my real files, the ones with timestamps and saved drafts. Every version of every idea I had worked on was there, safely backed up. Leo had copied my work so many times, he forgot something. I always kept the originals. And soon, everyone else would see them too. I stayed late at the office that night. The place felt different when it was quiet. The lights buzzed softly, and only a few screens glowed in the dark rooms. I liked it like that. It made me feel like I had space to breathe, space to think. I opened my laptop and created a folder with everything Leo had taken credit for. Project drafts, design notes, timelines I had created, and even screenshots of email exchanges where I had sent him early versions. I labeled every file clearly. No drama, nothing emotional, just facts. The truth doesn't shout. It just sits and waits. Around 9 p.m., the elevator dinged. My heart jumped for a second. Only a few people ever stayed that late. But when the doors opened, it wasn't a coworker. It was a cleaner pushing a cart. She nodded at me and kept going. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Before leaving, I printed one copy of everything. I placed the papers in a sealed envelope with my name on it. That envelope was my safety net, my shield. If anything went wrong, these documents would speak for me. On the way home, I felt lighter. I knew Leo had dug a deep hole for himself. He just didn't know it yet, but he would soon, very soon. The next day, things got strange. People in the office started acting different around me. Some smiled a little more than usual. Some avoided looking at me at all. I didn't know why, but something in the air felt off, like whispers had passed through the halls before I arrived. Then I saw Leo. He walked out of Mr. Harding's office with a stiff expression, the kind he tried to hide behind a smile, but couldn't. When he noticed me watching, he forced a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Morning," he said, voice tight. I nodded. "Morning." He hovered like he wanted to say something else, but he turned away before the words came out. That told me one thing. Whatever happened in that office, he didn't like it. Later, during lunch, I overheard two co-workers talking. I heard Harding notice something weird in the last report. One whispered, "Really? Yeah, he's checking old files now." My pulse picked up. So that was it. Harding had begun digging. Leo must have felt the ground shifting beneath him. He had depended on the idea that no one would check the details. But Harding was an old-school boss, strict, careful, thorough. And once he started pulling one thread, the whole thing would unravel. All I had to do was stay quiet and let the threads fall. By Friday, the tension in the office felt like a storm waiting to happen. Everyone seemed restless. Even the printers sounded louder than usual. I tried to stay focused, but every time someone walked by my desk, I felt my shoulders tense up. Around noon, Mr. Harding called me into his office. My stomach tightened, but I walked in calmly and sat down. "Silas," he began, folding his hands, "I've been reviewing the project history. I found some inconsistencies." I kept my face still. "What kind of inconsistencies?" He tapped a stack of papers on his desk. "The original drafts and ideas are clearly tied to your account, but the submitted versions were labeled under Leo's name. I'm not accusing anyone yet, but I need clarity." I nodded once. "I understand." He watched me carefully. "Do you have anything you'd like to share?" I had been waiting for that question. "Yes," I said. "I brought something for you." I placed a sealed envelope on his desk. His eyebrows lifted slightly as he slid it toward himself. "What's inside?" he asked. "Everything," I replied. "Every file, every draft, every timestamp." Harding looked at me for a long moment. Then he said quietly, "Thank you, Silas. This helps a lot." I stood and walked out of the office with steady steps. Behind me, the door closed softly, like the beginning of the end for Leo. When I returned to my desk, Leo was waiting. His face was tight, jaw clenched, eyes darting around like he was checking who might be listening. "What did Harding want?" he whispered harshly. I shrugged. "Work stuff. Don't play dumb with me." His voice dropped even lower. "He asked me weird questions earlier. Did you say something?" I looked him straight in the eye. "I didn't say anything that wasn't true." He stared at me for a long second, and I watched the panic build behind his mask. His confidence had cracks now, deep ones. "Silas, listen," he said, trying to steady his voice. "This is all a misunderstanding. We can fix it before it becomes a big deal." "It already is a big deal," I replied softly. "You just didn't notice." Leo swallowed hard. For the rest of the afternoon, he kept pacing the office. He made calls. He checked emails. He even started clearing his desk drawers like he was afraid something might be used against him. He wasn't wrong. By the time the day ended, he looked exhausted. I simply packed my things and walked out, feeling calm for the first time in a long time. Because I didn't need revenge anymore. The truth was already working for me. When I walked into the office on Monday morning, the air felt different, heavy like everyone was waiting for something to happen. Even the usual chatter near the coffee machine had stopped. People whispered instead of speaking. Eyes followed me as I walked by, but I didn't speed up. I kept my steps slow and steady. I reached my desk and noticed something unusual. Leo wasn't there. His chair was empty. His computer was dark. His drawers were slightly open, like someone had gone through them in a hurry. A few minutes later, Mr. Harding stepped out of his office and looked around the room. When his eyes landed on me, he nodded once. "Silas, my office, please." My heart thumped hard, but I kept my calm. When I entered, Harding closed the door behind me. He sat down with a long breath. "I did a complete review over the weekend. I compared timestamps, drafts, emails, and every document in your envelope." I said nothing. I just waited. "Everything pointed to one truth," he continued. "You created the work. All of it." And Leo presented it as his own. Hearing it said out loud made my chest tighten, not with fear, but with relief. "What happens now?" I asked. Harding leaned back. "Leo was confronted this morning. He denied it at first, but the evidence was too strong. He has been suspended pending a full HR review." I nodded slowly. The truth wasn't just coming out. It was already here. I sat quietly while Harding continued speaking. His voice was calm, but firm, like someone who had made up his mind long before the meeting started. Silas, I want to be clear, he said. This company values honesty. We value hard work, and we don't tolerate theft, especially when it comes to ideas. I looked down at my hands. For a moment, I remembered all the days I stayed late, all the mornings I came early, all the times Leo smiled in my face while pulling the rug from under me. It almost felt unreal that the truth had finally caught up with him. Harding slid a folder toward me. This is the updated project schedule. I want you to take over as lead. My head snapped up. Me? Yes, he said. You've been doing the real work already. It's time you're recognized for it. A warm feeling spread through my chest. Slow, steady, and deep. I didn't smile right away because I didn't want to seem too eager, but inside, something in me finally settled. Thank you, I said quietly. You earned it, he replied. Now go do what you do best. When I left his office, people looked up from their desks. A few offered small nods. Some even smiled. Not fake smiles, real ones. The kind that said, we saw what happened, and we're glad the truth is out. For the first time in a long while, I sat at my desk and felt like I actually belonged. Around noon, I stepped outside to get some air. The sun felt warm on my face, and the breeze carried the smell of fresh coffee from the cafe across the street. I stood there for a moment, letting everything sink in. That's when I heard a voice behind me. Silas. I turned. Leo stood there, hands shoved in his pockets, eyes red and tired. His shirt was wrinkled, like he had been up all night. He looked nothing like the confident man who used to walk around the office like he owned it. We need to talk, he said. I crossed my arms. About what? He sighed. Harding showed me the evidence. It's bad. Real bad. That's because it's the truth, I said. He winced, like the words hit him harder than he expected. I messed up, okay? I wanted to get ahead. You always made things look so easy. I thought you wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind. I repeated. You took my work, my ideas, my promotion. I know, he said softly. And I'm sorry. For a second, I almost believed he meant it. But then I remembered all the times he smiled at me after stealing from me. Leo, I said, sorry doesn't fix what you did. And it doesn't erase what almost happened to me because of you. He lowered his head. Yeah, I know. But his apology came too late. Much too late. When I walked back into the building, I felt lighter. Not because Leo apologized, but because I didn't need anything from him anymore. His words didn't change what he did, and they didn't change who I had become. I spent the rest of the day preparing the final project presentation. This time, I worked with confidence. My ideas weren't going to be stolen. No one was going to cut me out. I wasn't hiding in the background. Close to 4 p.m., Harding gathered the team for a quick update. Everyone sat around the long conference table. For the first time, I sat at the front, not because I pushed my way there, but because that was my place now. Silas will be leading the final project review, Harding announced. A few people clapped. Some nodded. No one questioned it. Leo's empty chair near the back of the room said everything. After the meeting, a coworker I barely talked to came up to me. Hey, Silas. Just wanted to say, you deserve this. We all knew something was off. We're glad the truth came out. Those words stayed with me the rest of the evening. It wasn't just about beating Leo or proving him wrong. It was about finally being seen. When I left the office, the sun was setting, painting the sky orange. I took a slow breath, knowing the final step was just ahead. Tomorrow, I would give the presentation that should have been mine from the start. And this time, no one would take it from me. The next morning, I woke up early, not because I was nervous, but because I was ready. Really ready. The kind of ready that comes from knowing the truth is finally on your side. I arrived at the office before anyone else. I set up the conference room, checked the slides twice, and made sure every detail was perfect. This wasn't just a presentation. It was proof of everything I had worked for. When the team arrived, the room filled with soft chatter. Harding gave me a nod from across the table. You're up, Silas. I stood at the front, took a deep breath, and began. As I spoke, the room was quiet in the best way. Focused, steady, respectful. People leaned in to listen. They took notes. They asked questions that I actually enjoyed answering. Every second reminded me that I belonged here, not because of luck, but because of work. Real work. When I finished, Harding stood. "Excellent job," he said. "This is the direction our company needs." A small wave of pride washed over me. Warm, strong, deep. As everyone filed out, I looked at the empty seat in the back, the one Leo used to sit in. For a long time, I thought he stood in my way. But the truth was simple. He only delayed what was always meant for me. And when the moment came, I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to destroy him. I didn't need to make a scene. I just had to step into the space he tried to steal. And I did. I made my move.